Clay Snowden going to join us and talk a little baseball here. Clay, we appreciate your time. Welcome. How are we today? Happy Wednesday.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, listen, so look, we've been spending a lot of time on football this week and baseball when spring training starts. I'm just so jacked to watch baseball, listen to baseball, to react to anything we see spring training wise. But then after about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm over it. I don't care. I'm kind of getting bored with spring training. I'm ready for opening day. It's about 15 days from now. Where are you at with spring training right now? Like, I feel like we've learned enough, right? Like, can we just hurry up and speed this along a little bit?
Hey, come on now. We can't be talking about the Browns quarterback situation again and just ignore spring
We don't
training,
talk.
can
We
we?
don't talk Browns. Don't talk Browns. It gets ugly.
No, I know what you mean because spring training has that excitement initially, and you get to see the camera footage off someone's iPhone through a fence, and it's so cool, and you want it all. And then a week or two in, you're like, these stats don't matter. Who cares? Let's move on to the regular season, and that is normal. And I kind of see where you're coming from.
Clay, by the way, and thank you very much, Clay, for coming on today. Because I will say this: I texted Clay yesterday. Well, I sent him a voice message yesterday, asking him to come on. I begged him to come on. Because he's got other priorities. I know he was on Chatterbox Reds last night. Had I known that, I, of course, would not have asked you to come on today. I didn't want to make you do double duty. But obviously, if you want to listen to double duty, Clay, Chatterbox Reds, that podcast is available out now, so go listen to that. And then listen to this. And I hope I don't repeat a ton of questions. I was listening to it on the way in this morning, so hopefully I don't ask too many repeats. But, Clay, I want to say, how do you rate my Marge Simpson voice, real quick, before we start this?
I got a voice memo or message, was not sure what to expect. When I clicked on it, I was legitimately terrified. That was an incredible Marge Simpson. If anyone has not heard it, I replayed it multiple times because I was truly shocked. Not only the cadence, the sound, but even like
Prove it.
the verbiage that was used. Like, if you put that much effort into your day job, Elliot, you could really go places.
Prove it. I want to hear it.
I'll prove it. I'll prove it.
All right.
Homie, where's Bart and Lisa? Now we've got Clay Snowden on, homie. See now, and by the way, it hurts my voice every time. All right, that's enough silly stuff. I'm going to still be silly, though. Outside of Elly De La Cruz this spring, Clay, who has been the guy that you've looked at and be like, all right, I'm very, very impressed with how he's playing right now?
For me, it's CES. Christian Encarnacion-Strand, after the injury that we saw last year and the just flat out poor performance, knowing how big of a piece he could be for this team, bringing power to the lineup, bringing, in some ways, stability to the lineup, and a lineup that kind of missed having another guy, right? And it felt like there's a collection of guys who should be your fourth, fifth best player on a team instead of your first, second. So adding Christian Encarnacion-Strand, a guy who I think has the potential to hit 30 home runs, especially in this ballpark, to this lineup is huge. So this spring, it wasn't even about, for me, it wasn't about can he hit this, that, or the other. It's I just want to see him leave the yard a few times
Yeah.
and show that that injury is behind him. And I feel like he's done that so far. So for me, it's a big check in that box.
I like CES. I know Jacob's going to say I'm a CES hater, and Nick Kirby's going to say I'm a CES hater.
You said you're a CES
No,
hater.
I don't. I never said those words. I think CES could be really good. I just think a lot of this Reds roster has so many, like, if that guy can be good, if this guy can be great, if this guy can repeat. So when you weigh the expectations for this season, is it, if they're healthy, it's a playoff team, or is it still, we're still a couple pieces away, let's see what they're able to do? Are we still trying to build off of that 2023 season?
Oh, we just have a lot of players we don't know enough about. Like
Yeah.
CES has the potential to hit 30 home runs. He has that ability. Like he has that in his bag. He's not Jacob Hurtubise, and we're saying maybe he can get to 30 home runs. Like that's impossible.
Yeah.
But CES also swings at everything. He's going to have to make better decisions and decide when to get his A swing off and when to lay off a pitch. If you can't do damage with that pitch, don't swing at it. And that's something that he'll have to learn. So we'll see if he makes that adjustment. But you're right. There's a lot of players in this lineup that we either A, don't know enough about, or B, we need to see a healthy season out of them. Matt McLain, like we've seen his potential. It's still a relatively small sample size, less than 100 games, and then missed all of last year. So, like, even though we think he's great and we think he could be X, Y, and Z, like he still has to show that twice. Let's not forget Jonathan India came in, awesome rookie year. Everyone had sky high expectations, and then he kind of plateaued around a league average player. So all because you've had one good sample size, and that's kind of where we're landing with each of these players.
Yeah.
Will Benson, like, cool, he had a good spurt here, and like Spencer Steer was good for this one season, but not as good that season. Like, there's these players that have these back and forths, and at the end of the day, we just don't have that many veterans on the team, so you don't have a large enough sample size of multiple seasons to really say what they are. So yeah, it's a roll of the dice, and it's one of those teams that the outcomes are all over the place, and that's why it's kind of fun to dream on, but also kind of, whoa, let's pump the brakes. It's because there's so many different outcomes that could happen.
Speaking of sample sizes, Noelvi Marte, I would say, has a pretty small sample size as a Major League Baseball player. But last year, I mean, it wasn't good. Whatever happened with the steroid stuff, he came back from that and he became one of the worst players in baseball. He went to, I think, winter ball, terrible there. He was terrible during the spring. Have we seen the top of this guy? Like, I don't want to write off a 22-year-old or however old Noelvi Marte is, but I feel like there's been such, I mean, drastic regression that I don't know if I'm ever going to buy stock in to bringing him back up to be a Cincinnati Red to contribute for a team that's hopefully going to make the playoffs at some point, right? I mean, God willing, this team ever gets really good and we have to have a bona fide third baseman out there. I don't trust, at least at this second, Noelvi Marte can be that guy. Do you still have the belief that he's going to be able to be that guy?
I think he has to start over. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be totally, if they said you're starting in double A, I wouldn't care. I would say that's fine. Because honestly, he's not been that great in AAA. Like, he wasn't like beating down the door. He was good and he showed flashes. And when he came back from injury last year, or excuse me, suspension, we saw it. I mean, it trickled over into the field where he was just flat out lazy. I mean, you cannot be making some of those errors that he was making. And for me, it was between the ears. There was some mental thing going on there. And granted, he had a miserable season from start to end. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. If he comes in and just says, I need to reset, let me start all over. Forget the success I had in 2023. Forget 2024. I want to start over. And he can buy into that,
Yeah.
go back to the minors and work his way back, earning his way back. Right now, he has not earned anything. Right now, he is a minor leaguer who happens to be lucky enough to be on the 40-man roster. He has to earn every single bit back because I don't think he's in good graces at all right now. And, maybe he does become a trade piece at some point in time, and we could debate how much value he has. And I bet you there would still be a team or multiple teams interested, and who knows what that return looks like. I still think his best chance of success is working through the minors and in the Reds organization.
I'm glad you brought up trade piece because the Cincinnati Reds traded Luis Castillo for him. They traded him for Levi Stout, Andrew Moore, and Arroyo as well. Those four guys at the time we thought were going to be pieces here in Cincinnati. We thought that trade was going to be great for us. We thought we got a haul, as it were, get crawled. When you look back at that trade in 5 years, do you think you're going to be as happy with it as you were when it first happened?
So one thing to remember about that trade is Marte and Arroyo were extremely young top 100 players.
Yeah.
And like we've seen so many times with these extremely young talents, there's various outcomes. You can be 18 years old and become Elly De La Cruz, or you can become Noelvi Marte. So at the time, it looked great. Here's these flashy, toolsy prospects with a long way to go. And of course, we got more information about them. And really, it's all down to Edwin Arroyo right now. And to be honest with you, like, I'm not as high on Edwin Arroyo as most people are. I think we know where we all stand with Marte, and I think Arroyo is a solid player who I do think will be a major leaguer and have a fine career, but I don't think he has any type of I don't see the star power. I see more of the average to slightly above average. Like, he's going to have to tap into a lot more power, and he still can. He still can. He's very young. I know we've been saying that for years, but he also missed a year of development. Plus glove, we'll see how he transitions through the minors. Big year this year for him to show his worth.
All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to take a quick break for the radio, ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We're going to come back with Clay to do another short segment, but we will be right back. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We are Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Welcome on back, ESPN 1410 Wing AM, Off the Bench. Jacob Tissick, Casey McAllister, Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, and joined by a contributor, MLB writer and contributor for Just Baseball, at Clay_Snow, but that is S-N-O, no W. That's Clay_Snow, S-N-O. Is that correct, Clay?
You tell me, buddy. I'm sure it's in front of you, not me.
It's your handle. I got a guy named, shout out to my guy Houdini. He changes his @ every other week, so I got to try to memorize whatever he's changing it to. But yours is the same thing. Now, for those of you who don't know Clay, he was a big writer for the Athletics when they still had a franchise. Now, Clay, I believe, destroyed the entire franchise and sent them away to Las Vegas or Sacramento, wherever the hell they're playing now. Now you're focused on the Detroit Tigers.
I want to clear the air. I've never said this in public. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
I volunteered to do the A's for Just Baseball because no sorry soul would. I said I would do it. I do not care. I like the fan base. 3 months in, I said, this is mentally unwell to stay up till 2 a.m. every night watching this piss-poor franchise. Sorry if I can't say that. And I said, let me switch to a team that I've actually kind of cared about throughout my life, the Detroit Tigers, and now I'm happy. I have less gray hair, even though I'm losing a lot of hair. Different story, different day.
You got the Tigers to the playoffs, so I guess something's working. But we're going to go back to the Reds. I'm going to go back to the Reds. You talked about Will Benson yesterday with Nick Kirby. Again, Chatterbox Reds, that podcast is available out right now. You talked about Will Benson a little bit. When you look at the outfield as a whole, and this isn't really a Will Benson question, but I think he plays a part in it. Do you think it's going to be a little bit better than what people, at least the outside perspective is of what this outfield is? Because I do think there's somewhat of depth, right? Whether or not Will Benson's up at the start, whether or not it's done at the start, whoever you got, there is an amount of players there that could be serviceable at the major league level if an injury happens. So my question to you would be, is it a little bit better than what people are thinking?
No. I don't think it is at all, actually. I think that Spencer Steer probably has the highest floor of that group, and he's injured. I think TJ Friedel is injured often and has a pretty limited ceiling. He had that one incredible season. I just find it difficult for him to reach that level again. Now, I actually think Austin Hayes will have the highest WAR out of the outfielders, to be honest with you, but that's not because I think Austin Hayes is incredible. It says more about the others. The Reds are a collection of number 4 outfielders, like the 4th outfielder on a roster, /5th, this guy's bouncing up and down between AAA and the majors. Like, I think that's what their entire 40-man outfield roster. It's this long with, 8, 9 names, but they are all relatively close. I would say Steer and Friedel and Hayes are slightly above the others, but at the end of the day, no, I don't think that this team has a super high outlook for the outfield, and it's why I think that they should have targeted Luis Robert, and why I think that there still could be some variation of a move during the season for an outfielder.
I think the Gavin Lux, I know people are saying Gavin Lux can go out and play in the outfield, but my argument against it is he's played, 40 games out there. I don't think that you're getting anything defensively in right or left field with Gavin Lux that you're not getting out of anybody else. I want Gavin Lux to be in the infield, and that's why I agree with you. I would have targeted an outfielder. I would have been hesitant to give Nick Martinez that contract. Had I known, I wouldn't have gotten an outfielder because the Reds' offense was a problem last year. It absolutely was a problem. I know Nick Martinez, what he did was great. He was available. He stepped into every role that the Reds needed him to make. But Gavin Lux, I don't really know what he is. And my question to you, I guess, the Dodgers made some moves yesterday. They seemingly traded Gavin Lux, I thought, to give Ha-Seong Kim the role that he had. Ha-Seong Kim, Bobby Miller, all Ha-Seong Kim, Bobby Miller, Michael Chavez, Eddie Rosario, all sent to minor league camp. So why did they get rid of him? And what do you think Gavin Lux's role will be this year with the Reds?
I'm not as big of a Gavin Lux fan as the majority, I'd say. This is a guy with multiple years of experience, and a lot of people are focusing on the second half, which keep in mind is not even a half. It's not half. It's
Yeah.
less than half. Um, if the swing changes he made translate, great. He doesn't hit for power. He's around a league average bat, and he's not a great defender. So to me, it's yeah, like he's a good piece to have and like a piece of the puzzle. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think he's going to break out and become some type of juggernaut in this lineup. And if he does, great. I will. You can clip it. You can do whatever you want with this. I couldn't care less. But I'm just not ready to buy into that level. And again, like you said, you watch Dodger games, and I watched a lot of Dodger games, and um, there's a reason why they were willing to kind of move on from Gavin Lux. Like he's a solid player, but he's not, like I said, he's not like flipping your lineup around from mediocre to great. Um, to me, I'm glad that the Reds are getting creative. I'm glad that they're trying something different and being more aggressive for a trade. I wish that there was somebody with more power that they would have added. And now there's more pressure on Elly and CES and others to provide that power.
Speaking of Elly and CES, the infield alignment, I see fans complain about this. I think every day on Twitter, it's Elly needs to go to third, or Elly needs to go into the outfield, or Matt needs to go to short, and then Gavin Lux goes to second. When you look at the talent that the Reds have right now, what is your perfect defensive alignment? And do you think that the Reds would ever make that permanent move of Elly to third base?
Yeah, I think that they would eventually, but not yet. Elly has the ability to be a really good shortstop. He needs more time. When you're talking about a guy this tall with this many long
Yeah.
levers, it's harder to play shortstop. You don't see a ton of short or tall shortstops for a reason. And, O'Neal Cruz just moved to center field last year. And I think Elly could eventually move to third, and I think he would be elite defensively at third. I don't think it's this season that they should do it. Give him some more run, see if he can correct, because I do think he has that ability to be an elite shortstop, which is hard, hard, hard to find. McLain's a very solid shortstop. If he ever ended up being the Red shortstop, I would be perfectly content. Edwin Arroyo, who we've already mentioned, could be an option there as well. I think that the Reds are going to go shortstop Elly, McLain at second, and kind of figure it out at third. Who earns that playing time? I personally value defense more than what the Reds have maybe shown that they value defense, and I also value third base defense more than second base defense, something that they haven't always shown as well. But I will say that having Matt McLain back is big for the defensive makeup of this infield. Replacing Jonathan India, who granted was better defensively at second last year, McLain just has a higher ceiling, if you will, defensively.
I think that too, and I could be wrong on this. When you're the face, or at least when you're a face of the league, like Elly De La Cruz is, and you play that premier spot at shortstop, would you expect like a Scott Boras or maybe even Elly, maybe not this year, but maybe a couple years down the road, like I'm advertised as one of the best shortstop, if not the best shortstop in baseball. I would be unwilling to move positions. I think you're seeing a little bit in Boston right now with Devers and Alex Bregman, and he's like, no, I'm the third baseman. I'm not moving my spot. Do you think there'd ever be any protest there? If I mean, I know Elly's so young and he's still on that first deal, so maybe he doesn't have a ton of power. But do you think that protest would ever come by maybe Boras or him?
I don't know. I mean, that's years down the road.
Well,
There's so much that needs to happen between now and then that I'm not gonna paint Elly as somebody who could bring up a protest, but I do think he would be willing to move to third because third basemen still get paid huge amounts,
yeah.
and most shortstops end up moving to third at some point. And if he does move to third and is as elite as I think he can be at third, I'm talking like I think he could be the best third baseman defensively in the league type of player. So if that does happen and he does move there, like he's going to get paid the same way that he would get paid at short, to be honest with you, because if people who think he's average or above average at short, well, now he's elite at third, there's going to be that price difference either way. So I think he'll get paid a gazillion dollars no matter where he plays.
I think that's fair. I just remember, when Tyler Stevenson had all those injuries at one time, and everybody's like, he's now our first baseman, right? And I think Tyler Stevenson said, he's like, no, I'm the catcher. I'm not moving positions. Now, obviously,
It is funny. It is funny how sometimes we have these narratives run on Twitter for however long, and then we tend to forget about them. Like that was something that everyone decided he was injury prone when he had one season of injuries, really. And that's why it's, and then we forget that these things ever were talked about and everyone just kind of moves on. So, I think Elliott short is fine. I don't think anyone needs to hit the panic button. I know the errors were an issue. I also know that Ellie is talented enough that you can't compare him to the normal person. If it reminds me like when Elliot is on the tennis court, like I know he cannot hit his second serve in, but like at this point he doesn't have the ability to improve. Ellie is a different breed than Elliot, right? So like Ellie has the ability to improve at a level that the average human can't. So whatever his limitations at short were last year, he could flip that in an offseason because he has that type of talent that we just aren't used to seeing.
Do the Reds, and this is my last question for you, Clay. Thank you again, Clay Snowden, Just Baseball. He's on Twitter at Clay_Snow, no W at the end of Snow. Clay, your predictions for the NL Central this year. I know we got the Cubs in first, but do you think the Reds outplay the Milwaukee Brewers?
To be honest with you, no, because I just will not go that far until I actually see it happen. Too many times I've counted out the Brewers. I do not care what their roster looks like. They have earned that respect. Year after year, they lose this player, that player, this guy you've never heard of is inserted into the lineup, whatever it may be. They continue to churn out winning seasons. Until I see something different, I'm not going to just project the Reds to be better because they got Gavin Lux and Brady Singer and whatnot. Like the Brewers have earned the top. I think the Cubs offseason, I hope Reed's not listening, but I think that the Cubs offseason was incredible. I really love what they did. It's not like hang the banner best offseason ever or anything like that, but I love what they've done. And I think that the Cubs are a good team. And I still think that the Reds are going to have to prove that they're better than both of those teams. I'm not saying that they can't or that it's impossible. They're not light years away or anything close to that. But like we said in the first segment, there's going to be some players who either take a big leap forward or maybe stabilize or even take a step back. There's just too much unknown to really say this is what we expect going forward from player X, Y, or Z.
Well, thank you, Clay, very much for coming on today. I appreciate it. Double duty on Chatterbox in a span of 12 hours, so thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. Go Spartans. You're a Michigan State guy, so go Spartans this March. If you want to do a bracket, hit me up. But I'll let you know that I'll let you know that information when I get there. Clay, thank you. I have to get you on every preseason. I get one Clay Snowden interview, so I needed to get this one out of the way. Thank you very much for coming on, Clay.
I'm willing to come on more often if you just give me a little bit more notice. Sounds like a personal problem, but thank you so much.
Oh, come on. All right, that's it. Clay Snowden, ESPN 1410, Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Jacob Tissett, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Justin Kinner, and that was Clay. So thank you guys very much. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.